Hello everyone, my name is Mashad Chaudhry and this is my Capstone project on the strategic analysis of KeyBank. Alright, so we will start off with an overview of KeyBank, just so you guys have a pretty good understanding of what KeyBank does and what it entails of. So KeyBank is actually one of the nation's largest bank-based financial services company, and it is headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. And at the bottom here we have a couple of statistics on KeyBank, so just so you guys have a pretty good understanding of how big or how many branches it has and stuff like that. So KeyBank operates in about 15 states. KeyBank has over 40,000 plus ATMs. It also has over 1,000 full service branches as well. And the current assets of the company right now are about $171 billion. The revenue for the 6 months that just ended, Q2 of 2020, the revenue was at $3.2 billion. And KeyBank has approximately 17,000 full-time employees. So hopefully that gives you guys a better understanding of what KeyBank is and what size company it is. Alright, so here's another little bit overview of what KeyBank does in the different departments that come within KeyBank. So we have the personal banking department, which is basically just day-to-day consumer banking, just regular checking accounts, savings accounts, and all that as well. And then we have small business banking as well. So KeyBank is actually well known for its small business clients as well. Then we have commercial banking, wealth management, and we also have a corporate bank as well for the bigger corporations and all that. So right, so let's get into it. So first I just want to get started with the pestle analysis. The pestle analysis will give us a pretty good idea of the banking industry and what are some of the factors that affect it, what factors influence more on the banking industry as well. So to start off, the political factors, they are pretty important within the banking industry, and banks are usually vulnerable to political influence. The only reason being is because the governments are the ones that decide what laws and regulations to impose on banks. So it's not something you can go around. You have to, the banks have to adhere to those guidelines, and if they don't, there can be a lot of consequences that can end up with the bad reputations for the company as well. There are economic factors that influence the banking industry as well. The biggest being, just it all depends on the economy overall. So depending on how the economy is doing, that's how the banks are directly correlated with their profit and revenue as well. And also just depending on what economic cycle the banks are in as well. So it just depends, especially right now with the whole COVID-19 situation, banks are struggling at the moment just because the economy is not doing as well. However, they're the lending part is doing really well, as opposed to if people are coming into our banks with different expectations with their rates and everything. We are not able to fulfill those right now just due to the economy. So that kind of takes our ability to make money off the deposits and everything that customers are making, as opposed to when the economy is doing well, more people are putting the money in the bank where we can the banks are able to use them, especially market volatility as well. So depending on how the market is doing, it basically affects the banks a lot as well. The socio-culture factors of the bank, it just basically that determines what products and services are being offered by the bank. So say one of the branches is in a mass affluent community, the banks will the specific bank location, they will be offering say investment services to only that area, so that depends a little bit on the bank's location as well. And there's a lot of technological factors in banking right now as well, just because of how important digital banking is right now, with the whole online banking, mobile deposits, mobile banking, all that as well. So basically just adding on additional features to make the customer experience better. Next, we'll get into a little bit of the legal factors of the banking industry. There are a lot of consumer laws that protect the consumers as well, so the banks need to make sure they are adhering to those guidelines as well. Especially discrimination is one of like the biggest legal factors in the banking industry as well. So making sure like the bank is training their employees to not to discriminate against anyone, so anyone that comes through the branches, we can't like the banks usually have guidelines, we can't tell customers, what you might qualify for, what you might not. So it's just, we can't like discourage anyone to do any to not do anything. Basically, there are ecological like factors as well. Some of them include natural disasters. The banking industry still, they do have retail locations, so if anything were to happen, those locations would be affected. However, I mean, it's a low impact due to digital banking. Everyone does everything basically online now. There's a couple people that still come into the actual branch locations as well, so that would be affected, but overall a pretty low impact on that. So now we'll get into the 5 forces. So basically to go over an overview of the whole banking industry as well. So the threats, new entrants, it's pretty low. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory as well. With the banks, there's a lot of regulations and requirements as well, just because of how our the history of banking as well. So especially now, like, the government makes sure, if anything were to happen, the banks are liable and everything as well. So there's huge capital requirements for that, and especially with like banks right now, banks have been in business for hundreds of years. So just building up that brand name and reputation, it takes a lot of time. So no new bank is gonna come into the industry and hoping to make an impact really quick, because there are a lot of like big names out there as well. Some of the threat of substitute products, it's a pretty high force in the banking industry. The only reason being is there's so many like substitutes now with companies such as PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, that basically provide almost the same like services that banks do, and then there's also those prepaid debit cards as well. So you technically don't need a bank account to make those purchases. You can go on and buy the debit cards and make transactions and purchases that way as well. So it's a pretty high force. Alright, so the bargaining power in this industry, so suppliers, it's pretty low. The only 2 suppliers in the banking industry are basically the depository consumers, the customers and clients that we have. They basically provide the capital, and then there's employees who provide the labor as well. So between the clients and the employees, there's not much bargaining power that they can hold the bank for. It just basically, it's just the suppliers are they can be replaced easily, I guess you could say, in a way. The bargaining power of the buyers it's pretty high. It's a high force if it's collective bargaining. So if a large groups of people get together and say they want to take their money out and stuff like that, there's a lot of problem in that. And then also with big buyers, banks always want to retain their customers as well. So buyers do have a significant amount of power, and also due to low switching costs, there's not banks are always trying to acquire more big buyers. There's pretty low costs there. Competition and rivalry is probably like the highest force in this industry, just because of how there's increased competition due to the low switching costs that I mentioned earlier. So any customer can go anywhere. There's no fees, to switch banks or anything like that as well. And there's also a lot of promotional tactics as well. Like, say a bank comes in, they say, hey Mr. Customer, like, we'll offer you $600 to switch over. What is holding that customer back from switching from our bank to their bank? So it's a pretty high force there. So now we'll get a little bit into the SWOT analysis of KeyBank specifically. So our strengths include our brand name and reputation. That's because we've been in business for a while now. There's strong leadership, and we also have a loyal customer base that has been there for a while. Some weaknesses I would say are like the legacy systems, like some of those application systems that we have to go through. They take a lot of time, so just it leads to like a bad customer experience overall. A lot of employee turnover, which is another weakness, and then there's slow branch traffic. Some opportunity would be in digital banking, just going above and beyond just like more than like the regular online banking and everything as well. Client acquisition, and then obviously right now a lot of people are concerned, with their finances right now due to COVID-19. So it's a pretty good opportunity to get customers in and to talk to them through that. Some threats are, there's low traffic right now. It's always been like low traffic, especially due to Corona. There is low traffic, and then large banks in the surrounding areas, such as PNC, can be a threat to us, and then market uncertainty as well. Some core competencies of KeyBank would be the personalized client experience. So that's why we have a lot of loyal customers that know that we provide the best service there, and we actually care about their finances. And then there's also a focus on the financial journey among the employees as well, which leads to a better client experience overall for the customers, then our reputation, and then our leadership's promise to diversity and inclusion. I would say differentiates us, KeyBank, from other banks as well. So some strategic issues I would say would be in digital banking. The biggest thing is, there's a lack of innovation in KeyBank. It's like we have the standard, I guess you can say, features for online banking and everything, but they're obviously with new technology at KeyBank, it takes sometimes months and years to implement, which can be really frustrating for the consumer and employees, which I'm pretty sure can be like worked on. Another strategic issue would be on the slow traffic of the branches. We can do a little bit to control that as well, or even look at alternatives as well. So that especially due to COVID-19, there's slow traffic just because a lot of customers don't want to come in. They're afraid to come into the banks and everything. There's no really incentive for clients to come in. They can just do everything online. So that's also an issue there as well. So some of the recommendations that I provided are like setting up remote client meetings. And for that, I recommend, KeyBank implement they start using Zoom to connect with clients due to the slow traffic and COVID-19 concerns. I know there's a lot of clients out there right now, they can't leave their house either because their kids are being homeschooled, they have to be there, or they're just working remotely, so there's no really time for them to come in. However, if we do have, we do decide to do everything through Zoom, like holding a client appointments and anything, I think that will help a lot. And then there's also incentives. We can provide incentives for the clients to come into Zoom and do a financial wellness session, basically, just to discuss their finances and how everything is going right now. And we can incentivize them, with either gift cards, discounts, etc. You name it. It's just we need to get more client interaction, and obviously it's not happening right now with the slow traffic. And also with the digital banking, there needs to be something that clients can easily access and get in touch with a banker at the branch, over Zoom. So these are my references, and thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your career here at RMU. Thank you.